All right. I think we're here.
Nice.
Excellent. Okay, welcome everyone to our latest edition of Liticast. Today, I'm excited. We have not only an amazing business person, but a friend of mine. Chris and I have gotten to know each other over several events over the last couple of years, and genuinely one of the good guys in the industry. So I'd like to formally welcome Chris Princis of CAMG, Consumer Attorney Marketing Group, to the show. Chris, welcome.
Hey, Terry. Thanks. Good to be here, man. Thank you. Good to see everybody.
No problem. Yeah, I'm so happy you can come on board. So just quickly on CAMG, and I wrote down a couple notes about you guys. Your reputation precedes you, but 10 plus years of experience in the direct-to-consumer marketing and advertising and creative elements for firms. So everything from single event to mass tort to sex abuse, which I know is an interesting topic we'll touch on in a bit, and now COVID-related cases. You guys are really helping firms find their clients, get the right messaging out there, represent their brand in the right way. And I know that you have some call center services that are top notch, and even kind of tying those two together, sex abuse specific call center where people are trained in order to handle very sensitive calls, obviously. But CAMG doing really, really interesting work, longtime partner of Litify. And so first and foremost, thank you so much for your partnership, Chris. You guys have been great, you and Steve, to work with. So I appreciate that. But did I miss anything, or is that a pretty good overview of CAMG?
No, that's pretty good. You know, we're crazy times. We're in exciting times for us, and really excited to be here and share some of the stuff we're seeing going where we are, where we're going into Q3 through the end of the year, and really appreciate our partnership and your friendship, bud. So appreciate you having me here, and hopefully the folks out there sharing some data that can be useful right now.
Yes. And I will say that we are, for the first time in Liticast history, I think, we're going to be sharing some visual aids, some charts, a couple video snippets along the way here. So I'll apologize in advance if there's any delays or little, issues around sharing that stuff. But I think we have it buttoned up. Caroline Cornell, our trusty hostess, will help in that regard. So thank you, Caroline, in advance for sharing this stuff. I'm just going to have Chris, you just prompt when you want to share some of those things, and we'll show them to the audience. And then also to the audience, if you're joining us via LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, our own website, please post questions, comments, concerns. Chris is one of the foremost experts in the country for all things advertising, as I just mentioned, in the plaintiff space. And even if it's off topic a little bit, we're happy to get into things. And as you can see from prior Liticast, we tend to riff a little bit on topics that are interesting to us, and we hope others will find interesting as well. So, okay, cool. First thing I wanted to ask, and we're all kind of getting tired of the COVID topic, but I do have to ask this: when early March this thing first hits, what happened with legal spend? I mean, our customers initially kind of turtled up a little bit, but then they realized that life goes on. I'd love to see from your view what happened with your business, and then sort of how it's progressed since.
Yeah, it's crazy, and Steve Nober, you referenced Steve earlier, Steve Nober, our CEO, got on top of this thing. He saw this, and the executive team saw this coming down, early March. So we got out in front of this, contacted our clients, set ourselves up to be ready for call center. Everybody's remote, this whole transition. The flip side of it, difficult situation for a lot of people out there. However, we started to seek what was coming out of this. A lot of advertisers, a lot of big brand media, airlines, hotels, hospitality were pulling out. Stations were starting to contact us saying, hey, we might be able to do some deals here. And on top of that, we saw the trend of people were going to be in lockdown, which was going to spike viewership. So we got out ahead of this a little bit with our clients. They were asking a lot of these questions, very valid. Everyone kind of goes into survival mode when something like this happens, especially something we've never seen like this happen.
Sure.
So with that said, we humbly think we got ahead of it a little bit to a lot of put people at ease, especially in our field with the legal spending. But yeah, then it hit, and certainly there was a lot of transitions. We had a lot of folks that were nervous, that maybe paused, but more than that, we saw, because of the discounts, We had everything from firms saying, look, if I can get, I'm just using a number here, if I can get $100,000 worth of value pre this situation, at $50,000, I'm going to stay $50,000. Let's keep it status quo. Great strategy. We had some guys. I got a mutual partner in front of ours in Dallas. A little hesitant at first, but said, you know what? Let's double down. At $100,000, if I can get $200,000 worth of value, I'm in. Let's do it. We had obviously a big practice area that was hit with this was auto transportation and just obviously mobility, and we'll talk about that in a little bit more where it comes down to data and analytics. But then we had firms who were like, look, people aren't going to be driving, getting out that much. This is a good time to diversify, to pivot. So we had a lot of firms take maybe 20, 30% of their budget that they were putting locally and go into mass torts and take advantage of the national buy, the national discounts, the national bonuses we were seeing there. So that was a good strategy. So all in all, there was a lot of fear those first 2 weeks, especially with everyone getting situated and home-based and not quite knowing what to do. But I have to say, I'm the resilience of the people that you and I work with, our friends and these folks that were our clients for years, the resilience of they always say lawyers aren't the best business people. What I saw here, it was absolutely amazing. Everyone stayed calm. Everyone stayed very process oriented with thinking what where's the opportunity here, because there's plenty of it. So all in all, when that happened, there really wasn't a slowdown. There was some adjusting and some pivots, but now things are moving along pretty well.
So you mentioned something in passing there, Chris, when people looking at new practice areas and where to diversify. We've heard the same thing from our clients, and they were looking for some guidance on how to best do that. Now, from us, it's a little bit different from our product because it's a system, it's a platform. It's from a technology standpoint, they were asking for guidance in how to open up a new area, how to create some baseline metrics there, and how to do that. Like what? Clearly, from an advertising perspective, you can help them out. But were you guys offering additional guidance or creating benchmarks in that sense? Like I'm sure, to a certain extent, you were trying to figure it out as you went along too, but you saw this influx of requests. I'm just curious if you expand on that a little bit. What did you guys see?
Yeah, it was like I'd mentioned, we obviously the biggest thing, and we've got a lot going in the market right now with a lot of testing, but it's going to be COVID related. And how did that look? A lot of these firms this is new to all of us. So bankruptcy firms were starting to reach out to us. But now business interruption with insurance policies has been a big practice area we're moving into. But it was more on talking to law firms about their business. Where are you looking to grow? Maybe auto. And again, it depends on the firm and what their attitude is. I had some clients who were like, auto, I want to double down. I'm going to come out of this being the auto guy, and now that or auto gal or auto firm. That's paid off now. You get through it, and there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And then we saw we had some clients where they wanted to be a little bit more sensitive on nursing homes and where that was going. So we had some firms jump into nursing homes as a diversification and a great practice area. So it's really been all over the board. It's been more taking the time, and now the firms had a little time to kind of think back. Where do they want to go? What do they want to look at? This was a great time to not only stay focused, but do some reset and some inner searching on what the firm looks like and where they want to go. And then we laid out a plan according to those goals, and then according to some of the benefits that we were seeing on the media landscape.
Yeah, this topic has come up, and I've used this term in probably every Liticast I've been on, but I read it somewhere. A forced reckoning is what legal was faced with, where the crisis that they didn't ask for, but maybe in some ways a crisis that was needed in this industry, because it really, it's not so much that it forced change, it accelerated things. Where one of the guests I had on was Peter Coffey, a futurist from Salesforce.
Yeah, great guy.
Yeah, and he's super bright, and he was just like, 2025 came 5 years early. That's effectively what happened across the board. Now you can argue in legal, maybe it was, even more accelerated because there was less effort or really analysis of what, data will do for a business and things like that. So we're definitely seeing that transition. One thing I noticed, and I'm curious your take on, when in March again, I promised to the audience I'm not going to go massive COVID, but this I think is interesting. When people started putting out the sort of business as normal, like we're fine, we're technology capable, like, you know, get in touch with us via video, we're happy to help. Were those ads effective when firms made those kind of ads? Did they work? Did you guide customers one way or the other? I'm just curious your take on that.
That's a great question. Yes and no. So I was in the boat of let's not get too crazy unless it was your approach. You wanted to go out to the community and show your sensitivity to it, especially early on. I had advised a number of clients saying, at least let's put a scroll or something there, because again, there was so much confusion in what was going on here. Let folks know that you're there, you're home based, you're ready to go, you're still taking calls, and you're still in business. We had some clients on the other end. They said, look, this is not going to, COVID's not going to get me. This whole situation is not going to get me. I want to double down on my ads. I don't want to change a thing. We think that's going to build comfort, that we're not going to address this at all. I mean, if we're running, people know we're there. If we're not making a big deal of it, that'll add some security to the community. And they both worked. What didn't work was not being out there. The phone was ringing on both ads. I think, obviously right now, unless it's a COVID-related campaign, I think people are maybe this is putting it lightly, beyond sick of it, of what's going on. So, and our creatives are adjusting accordingly. I mean, there's, certainly with nursing homes, certainly with COVID-related campaigns, business interruption, there has to be some education in there and sensitivity to what's going on if it's related to the crisis. But otherwise, everyone, and I agree with it now, let's go.
Yeah, it's a good segue. That was really my next question was, okay, we're sort of climbing out. What are people going back to normal in terms of their messaging and their ads? Are they still sort of, figuring it out? And then what advice are you giving clients going into Q3 and when they're really trying to understand their spend and what they should be looking at end of year type of cases? What are you giving in terms of advice?
Yeah, that's where, and boy, you hate to sound excited during something like this because there's a lot of folks with problems out there, but there are some opportunities here that need to be capitalized on, and I've got some numbers here. We saw a media perfect storm with big chunks of advertisers canceling. No sports, right? So just hours and hours of gaps. There was opportunity to invest in.
Sure.
You couple that with the viewership spike, which was 95% of us. So you had a real good situation there, and it still exists. So just a few notes I've got from the media team going into Q3 because we're and again, I hate to make light of a situation that's tough for folks, but if you wanted a softball to get into the market and start advertising, I mean, this is not the time to be on the sidelines. So going into Q3, we're seeing it still wide open, right? There's still a lot of questions with sporting events. How does that look, and is it going to be televised? So still a lot of air, and the stations are acting accordingly. All the media providers are acting accordingly, like it's wide open. States are starting to come out of these phases, but not all together. So viewership is still really high. And put that together with we're coming up into the summer months, which is people are just ready to get out. And I was reading some articles, and we're doing our research. A lot of folks are still planning on doing vacation. Now, going back to the auto folks, especially going into Q3 here. Everybody's talking about this is going to be the summer of the car. We still have 95% of us that aren't going to be flying. Right. So there's going to be and I think we'll get to it, and I'll show our mobility indexes because differing on state to state and community to community, and how firms want to get their message out to the community. But I mean, if in February, if I told you, look, you're going to be able to get twice the media for what you're paying now. You're going to have 80% of the community home watching your message.
Right.
You, within 2 weeks, are going to be able to hit a button and say, no one go, no one drive. And then with clarity, knowing the exact days, you're going to be able to pinpoint, like almost a gun going off at a starting line, when people can get out there and start moving around, and obviously causing issues and needing guidance from the folks on this call. So it's really, if you're not looking now, there's no better time to start looking at Q3. So even going beyond that, and obviously you want to, whatever your budgets are, and those have to be taken into consideration. But now, and when I say now, I mean today, for Q3, this is the time to start looking at it from what we're seeing and what's going on. Even going into Q4, I've got some notes here, some things that, again, there's still more questions than answers, but the only things coming up would be the elections and how that's going to play in. Obviously, how sports continues to progress. Hopefully sooner than later. Go Cubbies. And then even into the holidays, car sales are going to be slow. We've got folks like J.C. Penney, we've got Hertz going bankrupt. That trend, unfortunately, is going to continue. But even going into the holidays, we're seeing it really through the end of the year a positive market for our space.
So what's interesting, I think you're spot on with all of those things. I think that we're some states are different. I've been staying in Florida, and in many ways, in Florida, it's almost like it never even happened. There's things are open, restaurants are open, stores are open. They're, I guess, policing it sort of in terms of social distancing, and but not really. But but New York, New Jersey, where my home is, like, it's still very much on lockdown. What are the differences in those markets specifically? Is there a different approach? Is there a different feeling? Are firms behaving? I guess they are in some capacity, but from your view, how are folks take New York and Atlanta, for example? Those are two sort of different, very different governors and approaches to this whole thing from a guideline standpoint. But I'm curious what those markets look like for you guys.
Yeah, and that's where this gets actually to be a little fun on the strategy, because it's so state to state, community to community, phase to phase, and still a lot of unknowns. But we're tracking those unknowns, and we're tracking that data. We're tracking as these states open up, and so you can make a very strategic plan and strategy for this. In a second, Caroline, I'm going to ask you to bring up our transportation and mobility indexes, which is very fascinating. And that's on the local level. Nationally, though, we're still seeing great, through Q3, and like I said, right through Q4, great rates, great bonus. So, we've been talking about local single event, but even national, we've got some firms that are running national PI, national asbestos, national mass torts. On top of everything else, the mass tort world, with Zantac and some of the positive winds coming down from Zantac, from Talc. My God, Talc in the last couple of weeks, Elmiron, 3M. To have that much favorable momentum and positive news coming from those with this environment, it's really a good time to invest and track that, which we do, and which we encourage, whether you're a client of ours or not, really track what's going on, every penny, what it's doing, what it isn't doing, and make your decisions based on that. And obviously, if it's a local campaign where there's branding, have some feel around it. So that long-winded answer to your question, what do the communities look like? And yeah, this is something you have to track, and this is something we're tracking, and this is what I highly suggest everyone track almost daily. As I mentioned earlier, we kind of know the timeframes of when people are coming out and when they've come out, so you can make very, very rational strategic decisions on that. So, Caroline, can you bring up? Let's start with New York, which is like here in Chicago and like some of the bigger cities like LA, slow to open. Now, this is fascinating. This shows around when COVID was starting to become part of our lives, and then through currently how it's going. This is a mobility index, when people got locked down, weren't moving, to where it's going. So you'll see, I guess you can't see that I'm pointing at, but you'll see that fit in this one. The dark blue dotted line is New York, the state of New York. That thinner line tracing above the top of it is exactly. Thank you. that, and Caroline, can you go to the tip there to the end of it, just so folks know what we're looking at? So that's the national average. So New York and some other communities, Chicago, and this is sometimes not even by state. This is also by community, and we track that with clients. This scenario where they're slow to get back into it, there's crazy amount of opportunity here to start getting back into the community, letting folks you're there for when they get out and they're going to need some counsel. Now, this shows there's still a lot of pain in New York, a lot of issues there. So you're, again, depending on what your firm's vibe is, what your firm's culture is, and the branding message you want to get out there, this may require a little bit, what's the word to use? A softer touch where, hey, something showing lights going back on in the office, folks with masks on, just say, hey, as we start to come out of this, we're here. So everyone be well. So a little softer approach.
Right.
So you can use this information for that. So let's look at a community that's a little, Caroline, that's excellent. Thank you. Here's Georgia, which was a state that was on lockdown and opened up fairly quickly. And you'll see that spike. So you'll see here the blue line is much higher than the national average. So you can use this data. Now, this is maybe not as sensitive. This is, the sun rises tomorrow. So this is a little bit maybe more positive. This is, hey, everyone's out there, everyone being well. And again, I'm spitballing here. This is being lighthearted with, hey, and if someone that hasn't been driving for a while, doesn't check their rear view mirror in the parking lot, we're here for when mistakes happen. Something a little bit,
a little more direct.
More direct. Folks are a little bit used to being back to whatever normal means anymore, and so it doesn't have to maybe be as quite as sensitive. But again, that's spitballing. But having this data, knowing this information, lets you make educated decisions, and this is something we're doing for our clients, in all 50 states, because it's a different feel, and obviously digging down into the communities, because it's, for here in Illinois, and I know in New York as well, Chicago's a much different world than down south, southern Illinois. So these have to be taken into consideration as well, and we can track all that. And then what's interesting is we've been using this with clients, and then we've been putting campaign performance, overlaying that on top of this. So we can see, and it's funny, we're seeing a spike over the line on performance. So as people get out there, we're seeing this. It's literally a shotgun start. People are a little over excited, not used to traveling as much anymore, and getting into their issues, dings and things like this. So this data really lets us do a lot of work in the local capacity.
Yeah, it's interesting. One of the things that drew us together when we first started doing the Liticast events was the very fact that you guys use data very heavily on the guidance you're giving your clients. It's, really reports, dashboards, analytics is one of the major value drivers that we always kind of revert back to, because knowledge is power, and the ability to make decisions, based on this data, very important. So I know that was one of the real sort of impetuses of our partnership. So I see that, but park that for a moment. What I'm curious about as you were talking, and I'm sure the answer is yes, but it's fascinating to me that you must have people on staff that actually, for lack of a better word, sort of gather the national sentiment or the national mood on some of this stuff. Because even if you look at, the media, and if you turn the news on 6 weeks ago versus last night, even just your whatever local clock channel, whatever, Channel 5 News, like it was just doom and gloom for weeks, right? So I think because that's just so prevalent in people's heads, you're not going to instruct one of your firms to have this like, hey, everything's normal, we're here message. So there's that national component, and then I guess, like you said, the local component where it's like it's a different message in Atlanta than it is elsewhere. But do you guys actually have like media specialists on staff that kind of look at this stuff and try to figure this out? I'm sure you must in some capacity.
Oh my God! If any of my media team's on here, thank you. I mean, my media team, they're unbelievable, right? they really do all the heavy lifting for us, and very intelligent folks. And that's exactly what they're doing, right? We're tracking all of these analytics, the temperature from around the country, because again, it's so different depending on state. And like you said, also then nationally, how are we feeling? Because we're doing a lot of national campaigns. So bringing that all in. So we do. We have a great media team, and we also we humbly try our best to talk to our clients and kind of get their sentiment and what they're hearing from call-ins and clients, and what they're feeling and seeing in the markets, and how they're feeling, because every firm has their own culture and what they want to do and how they want to approach it. So overlying that with good solid data, makes for the best calculated decisions. And I know you guys are quick to pivot, and that's why we very much love you guys, and we really get along well, and how we approach our space here. It's never been more important to make sure you're not in a like any investment in a set it and forget it scenario. The stations are making great deals now, and being very proactive with letting you pivot with what's working and isn't working. With so many unknowns, week to week, as you just said, in local communities and what's going on with this, you need to make decisions on the spot and week to week. So if you're not already taking advantage of a scenario where you can quickly look at the data, make decisions on that data, and then make efficient decisions, so you're optimizing based on what this craziness is throwing us for any given week. So you need to make sure that you stay nimble and able to make those moves as needed. Yeah,
I keep saying forced reckoning, but it's really what it is. And me, prior to being one of the founders of Litify, I was at Salesforce for a long time, and I saw it in other industries really take hold. Data-driven decisions, and using analytics for it. Lawyers will not shy away from the fact that they're not necessarily at the forefront of that. Some are. And we found ourselves early on, particularly at Litify, kind of drawn to each other, the progressive firms and the ones who are thinking like this, and us and our abilities to do that. I'm sure you guys as well. Because it really does come down to, can you said it eloquently, probably more than me, but it was efficiently make decisions based on what you're seeing and pivot, because it could be literally a week-to-week decision-making process where all of a sudden something's going on in Phoenix, Arizona, where they get amazing deals on ad space, whatever it might be, radio, TV, coupled with something that just went on from a government perspective, and boom, smart firm gets on that, gets messaging out there, they see an increase of 20%, ROIs through the roof. I mean, that's smart business. I don't care really what your practice area is. Yeah.
No, that's exactly it. Whether the firm's doing it in-house, whether they're working with us, whether they're working with another agency, whatever your resource is, you got to be tracking that every week. And it's unknown, but it's actually exciting because you're tracking it. You're using data. You're making the best decisions, or you're making the best non-decisions that are wasting valuable capital. And I know you guys agree with this, and I know you've seen Steve Nober do this. He refers to us in very accurately as the money ball for law firms, where it's I'm trying to bring baseball back in my life somehow, but a great business movie and a great business book. Doesn't have to be pretty, doesn't have to make sense, doesn't have to feel good, but man, if it's on paper, you're probably going to get some wins.
Work. Okay, cool. Shifting gears a little bit, I'm curious of what are some of the traditional advertising media. I think we know, and you touched on a bit of that, but what are some of the more maybe untapped areas that you're seeing firms maybe kind of go into now, or thinking about, or like, so how is that evolving? Or if people want to get a presence and maybe their competition isn't at right now, what are you recommending to clients in that capacity?
Yeah, boy, it's endless, right? I mean, there's no wrong move here except being on the sidelines, and you got to think it through, big thing, right? I mean, right now it's old school, but right now with auto and people getting back on the roads, buying the right billboards, getting out there. So like my boy out in Alabama, call me Alabama, Alex Shinara, right? He's set up well there. So that's good. OTT is talked about every day here, and we're testing it, and we highly recommend to test that.
Sorry, stupid guy. OTT is what?
Over the top. So, yeah, exactly. Not non-cable connected video TV. So things like, Netflix and things like that. Things that aren't
streaming services. Yep. Okay.
Exactly. Right. So, it's great for branding and it's great for testing. It's up and coming. Everyone's talking about it, and we're testing it, and we're recommending testing it. But this is where the data is coming back. We're not seeing the. We believe in results and in return on that capital that's being invested. Right now, we're not seeing that, but we highly recommend and suggest, and are still doing it ourselves, to test that, because that's up and coming. We haven't seen the return yet. Right. Something we are seeing, and this has been fascinating. Steve Nober and a number of our executives have a background in obviously direct to consumer, but 20, 30 years in infomercials. So we brought that to the forefront, and it's interesting. We well, I don't even know where to start here, because there's so much to talk about that. We thought it would work where there is very high touch, emotionally based decisions. So like sex abuse, we knew where you had to build comfort, and folks needed to be comfortable to call you. It gave you 30 minutes, and I'm sorry, I'll back up. Infomercial, otherwise known as long form, but can be a 5-minute commercial where it takes up a whole segment, or what we're doing more of is a full 30 minutes. So you got a full 30-minute block, and the fire sale on these has been amazing, because networks need to fill these chunks that sports isn't filling now. So great opportunity there. So we know it work with sex abuse, things like nursing homes. We haven't done this yet for COVID, but something where business interruption, where there's, where the emotions are high, the pain level of what you need help with is high, and confusion is high. So pain like sex abuse, where people have been sitting in this for years and years, this really, they appreciate it. Someone took the time to approach them in this sort of using this media channel. Nursing homes, where it's both. It's God. I mean, an elderly parent was abused, and very emotional. But very confusing. What's our next step? What do we do? What's going on? Especially in this environment. And then something where business interruption, where these campaigns are going, we're talking to our attorneys, and we all have friends that are going through this. No one has any idea what's going on. So a 30-minute format is going to let firms be able to, it's more like a PSA educational route.
It's like a lecture series where you could really go into and provide a ton of data information. It makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. That's exactly it. And we're seeing that. And, we knew that would work for those high touch areas, but it's unbelievable. We've got infomercials on general PI running, and it's nailing it. National mass torts, nailing it. It's really performing well. We've got some asbestos, both some templated asbestos infomercials, as well as some branded ones that we shot with the firms. So, you own the whole 30 minutes. You also own the commercial breaks. So a lot of firms are running their own commercials during that break, and the cost to get them right now is it's kind of crazy. And I think, in Caroline, if you could bring up the sex abuse, yeah. So Jeff Herman, very dynamic attorney, only focuses on sex abuse. Great client of ours and a great guy if you don't already know him. Was running an infomercial that we shot in studio. English, and it was performing very well. He brought on his managing partner who speaks Spanish, and so he's like, look, there's this whole community not being helped, and especially in states where the windows are open, like New York, Jersey, California. So he got this idea when all of this started, and we were planning on and this is a good story. We were planning on doing the shoot. We had it all, and this happened quite a bit with us in March. Planning to do the shoot, fly everyone to LA, the studio, shoot it how we traditionally do it. Jeff says, what if we try something new, do a home-based one? So this is great. We had the managing partner, Grisel, who speaks Spanish, and then we had one of our hosts who's an anchor for Telemundo in LA be the guest, be the interviewer. So we shot an infomercial, literally a home-based infomercial using Skype. So Caroline, if you can just play a few tidbits of this so people can kind of see what it looks like. And I'll let this play first. I think fast forward a little bit just so people can see what the layout looks like. Yeah, so there's the Telemundo host at our house. And then can you fast forward a little bit where it shows, there we go.
Okay.
And there's a client. So it kind of looks almost like how they were doing with CNN.
Yeah.
And this was shot over Skype. And this is running in market. And I'm showing this one. We have a number of them that for asbestos and general PI that were done this way. They just haven't been launched yet. This is out in the market now. It's doing very well. So there was a need, and there was a brainstorm solution for it. So with the infomercials across the board, we're seeing a lot of traction there.
It's I love when clients are the ones that come up with those ideas.
Yeah.
It's great because we've gotten so many of our great ideas from a technology and functionality standpoint from our clients, because who knows better than they do, where they can just say, this I know this will resonate because I know, in the cases we've had in the past, X, Y, and Z have worked, A, B, and C have not. Let's do this. Like, I love getting that feedback from them. What are some other creative things that have sort of surfaced, or maybe either you're steering your clients towards, or other ideas that they've sort of surfaced? And I know that there's, you have to sort of stay within the bar guidelines, and there's, you can't do certain things when you advertise and all that. But maybe just give me a little more on what firms are doing along those lines without breaking any bar rules.
Yeah, no, we as far as the creative and bar rules, we've always been extremely sensitive and very, very conservative with our approach and with our clients, especially as like this day and age, it's state by state. So in a state such as Texas, we've got a lot of friends and clients there. They're pretty tight, so we know that. We know what's probably going to be approved, what isn't going to be approved. We know the process there. So, all 50 states, we're very sensitive to that. So, we obviously, you don't want to get in trouble with that. So certainly make sure you're tracking what your state allows and doesn't allow. And on our national campaigns for mass torts, we use wherever that client's local office is based. So if someone is, say, in Chicago and doing a national campaign, we'll run their Chicago or their Illinois disclaimer. If folks are interested, we take this very seriously. We've had white papers done on ethics, what people should be sensitive on. Our website has all 50 states, the current lawyer advertising rules. So if folks want to go to our site, you can just click on your state and it'll give you the details of what you can and can't do. Or you feel free to call us or whoever your resource is. But make sure, that's a good point, Terry. Make sure you're following those rules.
Right. So no Better Call Saul commercials that may be illegal in every state of the union, that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, get creative, but yeah, and there's so much you can do within within those posts. So and we. Obviously, creative, very, very important. But regardless of bar rules, it all comes down to the numbers. So,
sure.
Tracking, optimizing, adjusting, tracking, starting it all over. Wash, rinse, repeat.
Yeah, I'll give you guys a plug too, and just from the reports and such that I've seen, not only is the data useful, what I kind of like is you guys do a good job of And by the way, for the audience, Chris and I promised we wouldn't openly shill for each other's products, but I will say this. Just very professionally done. They look good. They make sense because, sometimes you get these reports that are amazing in terms of information, but you get a headache looking at it. You guys do a good job of just sort of the presentation of the information and data. So, because it's helpful for everybody in the firm, but also for clients, for your clients, that kind of thing. So I would give you that plug for sure.
I appreciate that, man. No, we're very much, do as you would do. So we're a marketing firm, and so we have to be able to market. So we painstakingly make sure that data is up to date. And thank you. I appreciate that, Terry, and I know Steve appreciates that, and the whole team appreciates it. So because we humbly put a lot of work into that, we're very proud of it, and we. From the feedback we get, we see it's doing some good for the community. So we appreciate it. I don't know how we're doing on time, but I have an example of some of that might be.
Sure. Yeah, let's share it for sure.
Yeah, it's just to show, and it's not the prettiest layout, but it's something that's interesting. Caroline, can you bring up the and this is just one state, the cost per person for California slide? You guys are right on that. Thanks. Okay, so it's a little busy, but talking about that data, this is vital. This is what, if you're looking to do a local campaign or you're looking to expand in your state, this has to be one of the first things you look at. So what this is from our legal marketing index, and a lot of folks are familiar with that. We do it for mass torts and for local single events. We update it monthly. It's based on data. It's not pretty, it's not ugly, it's indifferent. It's fact. So this is interesting. We we do this by state. I just brought up California here because I recently ran this, but there's a lot you're looking at here, but just to keep this simple, it gives you an idea of what's going on in your community and a competitive look. So let's look at Palm Springs there real quick. So market rank, that's the DMA market rank by population. So it's the 146th most populous DMA in the country. Now look over to the spend. That's the legal spend. That's the total legal spend in that DMA. Spend-wise, they rank 95th out of all the DMAs. So there's a bogey there of, you'll see here, the 51 number, the overspend based on market rank. You'll notice it's not in brackets. So what that's telling you is that the higher that number is, the more competitive it is. So for their market rank at 146, they're spending as if they're the 95th. They're spending as the 95th most populous state. So that's telling you there's a lot of competition there. Not that you should not or should advertise there, but it lets you know you're going to have to look at a very precise goal. Or you might be in Palm Springs and go, you know what, I want to expand in California. Where are there some, and we've talked about this, where are there maybe some gaps, some opportunities to get in? We've done this all over the country with folks. So converse of that's the most, let's call it non-efficient market in California. Now let's look at Chico. Market rank, it's 132nd as far as population. Rank though, it's all the way up at 176. Now you'll see their bogey of 44 is in brackets. So that means its spend is ranking much higher than its population. So there might be some opportunities there.
Sure.
So this is the kind of data. You extrapolate it, you look at it, you want to know what it means, you want to interpret it in the most intelligent way for your firm. And this is just California. This data is available for all 50 states in these reports. But I guess I rambled on your.
No. That was good. Like I'm looking at this going again. I'm not a firm runner, but if I'm looking at this, I'm going, okay. If I do want to be in the Palm Springs market, I better come up with something pretty inventive in terms of, if I'm gonna reach somebody, it's got to maybe a little bit out of left field, a little bit different, unique, and maybe we tiptoe there a little bit in terms of spend because. Again, like you said, lots of competition. There's a higher cost per acquisition,
right?
Maybe, but if we want to just go straight, rapid fire sort of advertising just to get volume, maybe Chico is a place, and there I get more bang for my buck. But like that type of stuff is very valuable. and my head obviously goes to the technology element of it, where I would want that from a source attribution standpoint to sit within my Litify system, and I can literally week on week just track the performance of that spend, understand where cases are being generated from, and then turn that lever appropriately. Oh, whatever, it hit in Palm Springs. Whatever we just did worked, because it's running contrary to what this data suggests. And so great, let's double down there. I talk, whenever I talk to clients, I always say, again, knowledge is power, that talk track, but it's really tactical things like this is where it really matters, where it's like, why are you going to throw, good money after bad in something that you're just banging your head against the wall, versus being intelligent, being creative, leveraging the expertise you have on staff already, and putting your efforts where they make sense. So this is a perfect example, Chris. I'm happy you raised this. It's a perfect example.
No, that was a good segue for this. I didn't know if this is going to be valuable or useful for the folks watching, but that you're absolutely right. So just digging even further into that. So like for Palm Springs, something like that, like the infomercial, something where it's maybe the clutter cut is the creative, obviously with a very intelligent, well thought out, trackable buy of what you're doing. Mm-hmm. So you're absolutely right. So, but you go in, you have that information, and then you break down on which other firms, which of your friends are also out there. So you can, which may make, sense on what they're doing creatively and to help yourself with what's already out there. So you have this data, you can sort it out, choose the goal of whatever practice area you're looking to grow on. Put the strategy together and fire.
Yeah, and leverage resources like CAMG. These guys are really good at this stuff. So that will be the last plug I give you, I promise. But it's
I appreciate that. I hope this information is useful, whether you're using us or not, or whatever it might be. But
I agree. By the way, you say that in passing, Chris, but I think it's very important. I think a lot of times a lot of our messaging really can. I'd love for you to get everybody on listening or gets this, secondhand. Love for you all to be Litify and CAMG customers. But I think the more important point is to really start, kind of the rising tide lifting all boats type of approach, where you're going to give a better, the more ability to give a better experience for your client, then the whole industry just gets better in that capacity. So, not that every day is an altruistic day, but there's a lot of that thinking that goes on where it's, let's utilize data. Let's make sure we're going to where the customers need us. Let's make sure that we're pivoting the right way. That's, a lot of our talk track comes down to it. I know that CMG's does as well.
No, and that's a great point, right? We all got to go in this, it's a different world out there. And to your point, we're all learning. And you're right. Let's bring everybody up. Nobody have so much ego that we can't, share what we're doing here. I watch some of my friendly competitors. They put out information. It's great to watch. And I hope some of them are watching this too, right? We're all, to your point, we're all raising boats here in a very interesting sea. So
I just hope their information is slightly less great than yours. That's kind of the way it works. Chris, listen, we're coming to the end of our time. I can't thank you enough for joining and providing this information. As I mentioned, you're doing a really great job out there, and I'm fortunate enough to call you my friend. I look forward to seeing you again at a live event, which is usually where we hang out. I'll give a plug out there right now. We're looking at Houston in September. End of October. We moved it back to end of October as potentially doing our next live event, October 22nd, I believe, at the Post Oak. We're figuring out exactly what that means. Might be a little bit more exclusive, a little more spread out, just in terms of the attendees. And we're working on the agenda there. So, Chris will certainly connect with you regarding that. You guys have been phenomenal partners since day one at Litify and the Liticast events. So thank you to Steve. My best to everyone there. Thank you so much for joining. Appreciate it. Any parting thoughts from you?
No, I appreciate it, man. And I echo your thoughts on appreciate our partnership you guys are doing. I mean, fantastic work. We run across your clients all the time. Really fantastic work, and thank you for holding these. I watch them every week, and they're really phenomenal, and you're doing a great job. So we appreciate it. We look forward to
I hate to cut you off. My mom says I'm doing a better job. That's the most important information that I've gotten. Well, which was great because in a way she was saying you kind of sucked in the beginning. She was like, "You're doing much better now, Terrence," is what I heard. My family calls me Terrence. "You're doing much better now, Terrence." I'm like, "What, did I suck?" She's kind of like, yeah, we started. So only moms can give you that kind of
Mama is very proud now. You're doing good, man. That's funny. You can tell her Princess said I did a good job, Mama. So
yeah, my mom and Chris said I'm in. Chris, thank you again, man. For our audience out there, please follow us, like us on LinkedIn, YouTube, Pony Express, however you get to us. Don't care. Just make sure you propagate the message out. And if you have ideas around, upcoming Liticasts, guests, topics, agendas, requests, please put them out there. We're happy to accommodate. Chris, my friend, thank you again so much. That wraps it up for today, everyone. Cheers all. Talk soon. Thanks, Chris. See you.